Hi guys, welcome to the first of this channel's film reviews. And what better way to start than the highly anticipated Godzilla X Kong The New Empire. Before we begin, I have to put the disclaimer that opinions are subjective and this is purely my take on the movie. You're free to disagree and have your own thoughts on this. I just want to share my thoughts of this film. Also, this is my first time doing this, and I'm not a professional movie critic or anything, so I'll try my best. Now lay back, relax and enjoy. The plot was one of the more iffy things for me regarding this movie. Frankly speaking, the plot felt more rushed than a risotto on Hell's Kitchen. While the basic premise of the film itself was fine, if not a little repetitive, big evil monster pops out of something and wants to take over the world and do bad things, and now Godzilla has to stop it, blah blah. Towards the end of the film, everything really started to get frantic and almost confusing. It felt like they meticulously made the dough for pizza, painstakingly put on the toppings, and then forget to bake it long enough, and now it kinda comes out all mushy. What I'm trying to say is that there is way too much exposition for a 2-hour movie and not enough time. In fact, I suspect Legendary initially wanted to make a much longer movie and ended up cutting back for whatever reason. They probably wanted to go for a 3-hour long endgame type deal, but perhaps due to budget or even time constraints, they messed it up a bit and cut the film significantly. And it certainly shows. Several elements were missing from the film and remain unexplained for the rest of the film. Here are some of my personal examples. Where did Scar King come from? I mean, they did explain his backstory a little as a tyrant ape that wants to rule the surface world, but why? Does he just want to rule the surface world because that's what bad guys do? I'm big, I'm bad, and this world is mine. Dark side. There was absolutely no explanation for his motivations, and moreover, we don't exactly know how he came about, why his species seemed different from the regular Kong species, and how he even ended up the way he is. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Get it? Where did this little bugger come from? Is he the son or what? How did Shimo even end up being captured by Scar King, considering how immensely powerful she is, and how weak Scar King and his minions were? I mean, Shimo supposedly took on Ghidorah, whom not even Godzilla was able to match one-on-one and froze his ass. Meanwhile, Kong dog-walked Scar King's minions on his own and would have whooped his as well if their fight wasn't interrupted. And speaking of Shimo, I feel as though the entire segment that's supposed to be her backstory straight up got removed. I remember her being all hyped up as though she's like the next big thing, but in the movie she barely gets any form of recognition. And I'm not even just talking about the screen time. Like, they only ever mention her like what? Once? Twice? Oh, that big white monster that shoots eyes and that's it. Absolutely no respect at all for her status as the so-called mother of all titans, which was honestly bullcrap anyway, because none of the other titans really seem to care about her. You would think the mother of all titans would have at least been revered in some way, but nope. I mean, even Mothra got more respect than Shimo did. The ending felt really rushed to me as well, like the final 30 minutes of the film felt like those times when you're writing an essay for a school test and you get carried away, and before you know it, time's running out so you just write whatever. Yeah, it felt just like that. I really do feel that this movie would have came out so much better if it had a 3-hour runtime instead of 2. I mean, King of the Monsters had more screen time, and it was good. At the end of the day, we all know what we're watching this movie for. It's not for a profound, life-changing plot, that's for sure. We just want to see big CGI monsters fight other big CGI monsters, and for what it's worth, the movie did achieve its purpose really well. You can definitely tell that Legendary was going for an MCU kind of vibe with this movie, especially given Marvel's success in the recent years, with all the jokes and unserious moments. That said, I will only give this about a 6.5 out of 10 for the plot. Could have been way better in my opinion. Visual effects are usually never the issue with big budget blockbuster Hollywood movies. When people usually complain, it's because the plot sucks ass. Obviously, Legendary Studio didn't disappoint with the CGI and delivered a great visual spectacle as they usually do. I wouldn't say this movie is as pretty as King of the Monsters, which to me was simply stunning, especially with all the panned out shots of the monsters in the background, or even the shadow of Rodian passing over that town. Though the CGI was good, I felt that the cinematography for this film was slightly lacking in terms of doing justice to the size and power of these titans. I don't really recall any wide-angle shot of the Titans, nor any particularly notable scene in which the Titans are made to look absolutely powerful like they did in 2019. I mean, Ghidorah has so many great shots of him that really allow the audience to feel how powerful he is. I didn't really get that with Shimo, which was a bloody shame because Shimo might have been even more hyped up than Ghidorah was when this movie got announced. But that's my only gripe with the visual effects for this movie. Everything else was done pretty well. Godzilla looks good, and they somehow managed to make that tacky pink and dark grey combination look decent. Kong looks amazing. I think he really looks like he's a seasoned Titan rather. Scar King looks alright, I guess, but I would have really appreciated if they made him a little taller. A little bigger and maybe even bigger than Kong. He's supposed to be this immense evil threat, but he looks really small next to Kong in some shots and it kinda throws me off. Shimo's design looks good, but in my humble opinion, I think she looks the worst out of all the Titans. Her color combination of white and purple and blue is already a hassle to implement in the movie because of the sheer contrast. But the way they used her in the movie made her look so bad in some scenes and I didn't like that. I also didn't understand the whole thing with Mothra. Like, I understand she can reincarnate after her death fighting Rodan, but I don't understand why Jia, the little tribal girl, has to be the one to wake her up. I mean, can the mighty Mothra wake herself up from a nap? I don't get it. And it was never really explained anyway. Or maybe I'm just dumb. Maybe one of you can explain it for me in the comments below. Overall, I will only give this movie a 6.5 out of 10 for cinematography. It's not ugly, but given that this is Legendary Studios and this is the monsterverse, I was expecting more. I mean, I know they are capable of more. Action-wise, this movie is a massive contrast compared to a lot of the previous movies we've seen from the monsterverse. Judging from the silliness we saw from Godzilla vs Kong a few years ago, most of the fans were already expecting this. The monsterverse is slowly shifting away from the serious, solemn tone of the 2014 Godzilla movie and moving on to the dumb, campy, action-heavy absurdism of the later Showa era. In fact, halfway through the film, I almost thought I was watching a Marvel movie, especially with the corny jokes inserted in between by some of the characters. That said, the action scenes involving the kaiju weren't as ridiculous as I thought they would be. Well, to be fair, once you've seen a 50-meter tall lizard slide on its tail and dropkick a giant ugly bug, not much can surprise you anymore. In the original 2014 movie, as well as Skull Island and King of the Monsters, all the kaiju move with a lot of weight, the ground reverberating with each of their steps. You can really feel their size with the slow and deliberate way in which they move. Even for Kong, which is ironic since he is much bigger in this movie, and I mean look at this mofo. Bro's been on a Sam Sulek shit. But in the new Empire, the monsters definitely move with a lot less weight behind them, which is understandable because they obviously want to focus on the fight sequences this time. With that said, however, I was pleasantly surprised by the way they still managed to make the monsters feel big, especially during the final fight. I think it was a wise choice for them to put the final battle in a densely populated city, because that really forces the audience to remember that these things are big. The destruction caused is a great reminder of that, and I imagine had this battle taken place on Hollow Earth, it probably wouldn't have looked as good because there would have been no large buildings or skyscrapers to give the monsters a size reference. With all that aside, let me just say that I absolutely love Kong's fight sequences. Bro was throwing hands like Mike Tyson and throwing dudes over him like a judoka or something. Kong is easily the most humanoid out of all the Titans, and that allows him to execute punches, kicks and throws like a human, and I think that adds a lot to his appeal. Also, he's far stronger than Scar King, so all you bandwagon hopping goofballs claiming, oh, Scar King will demolish Kong, you guys can piss off. There was even a really funny scene where some minion of Scar King started yapping away at Kong and Kong just stared at him before absolutely cleaning his clock. That was glorious. Godzilla wasn't too bad either. Man was charging forward and tackling everybody like a damn NFL linebacker. I mean, bro did not give a shit. Godzilla is the literal definition of standing on business. Man would fight anybody. His long arms in this movie definitely played a huge part. I mean, he was already fighting good in GVK, but in this movie he really takes it up a notch. He even suplexed Kong at one point, like as though he was a D1 wrestler. Shimo didn't really do anything aside from just blasting her ice beams and ramming stuff, so I don't have much to say about her. Would have really liked to see much more of her in action, so that to me was kinda disappointing. Scar King's Bone Whip was pretty interesting, and he was definitely the more technical fighter compared to Kong, who was way more brute strength. He cut Kong up pretty good, but didn't really do much beyond that. Kong's arm was damaged mostly by the frostbite from Shimo's icy breath, so in hindsight, Scar King didn't really do shit. So much for the biggest threat the monsterverse has ever seen. He's also far weaker than Kong strength-wise, and honestly without Shimo, he would have got his ass bent over, which he did in the final fight. All in all, I think the action in this movie was really well done, and judging by what they were going for with the more action-heavy late Showa era type thing, I think they actually did a really good job. Probably the best part of the film. So 9 out of 10. So characters. I don't really want to spend too much time discussing the human characters because, let's be honest, none of us really cares. We're here to see big monsters beat the absolute dog shit out of each other. But whatever, I'll make this quick. So right off the bat, I have to say that the human characters weren't nearly as annoying as I thought they were going to be. Because I did hear that often as a complaint when it comes to Legendary's monsterverse movies. People don't really care about the humans, and it kinda shows in this film. They did dial back the human-to-human interaction scenes quite a bit, instead focusing on either the kaiju themselves or their interactions with the main cast. I don't really have much to say about Xia and Dr. Eileen. I thought their acting was pretty decent, especially Kaylee Hotel, considering how young she is as an actress. I mean, say what you want about her, but her performance is Oscar-worthy compared to Will Smith's son in my books. In typical MCU fashion, there always have to be that one comic relief character, and that's none other than Bernie Hayes, played by Brian Tyree Henry. I really liked his character, not only because he was genuinely hilarious, like he got my entire theatre laughing on more than one occasion, but also because he basically acted as a narrative device, explaining to the audience just what the heck is going on. Obviously, it wouldn't be a Legendary movie without our very own nature guru, and since Serizawa blew himself up with a bomb 2 movies ago, they gotta get another guy to be the man, and that will be none other than Dan Stevens as Trapper. Frankly speaking, I cannot remember much about any other characters, so let's just move on. Overall, the characters get a 7.5 out of 10 for me. Not great, but not bad either. One thing that this movie got absolutely right was the sound effects. The monsters in this movie all sounded so good, especially with the surround sound system. I'll skip Godzilla's roar because it's already been raved about to hell and back, but I'll mention that I really like Shimo's roar. Most things about her are a disappointment, but her roars and growls were definitely on point and conveyed her size really well. She felt big and strong, maybe not as aggressive sounding as Godzilla, but I think she's supposed to be more peaceful than our big boy thug lizard anyway. Scar King's roar was great as well. Felt like a more sinister version of Kong's roar, which is absolutely fantastic by the way. Kong's roars were easily one of the best things about this movie for me, especially the way the screen vibrates every time he hulks out. Kong has come a long way since Skull Island, and his actions, demeanor, appearance and roar all convey his great size and strength, and this time he legitimately looks and sounds like a titan that was capable of throwing hands with Godzilla. Sound design gets a solid 9 out of 10 from me. In a nutshell, I give this film a solid 7 out of 10. I enjoyed it and I had fun watching it. Would I watch it again? Probably not, but that's okay. I know I had quite a bit of criticism for it, but I also shared a fair amount of praise when it was warranted. Sure, the plot's a bit wonky and it's on shaky grounds to say the least, and yes, it felt rushed, but at the end of the day, this movie's purpose was to entertain and give us big monster action, which it did. This isn't Avatar, The Way of the Water or No Country for Old Men. This is Godzilla X Kong. It's a monster movie, and it served that purpose very well, so 7 out of 10 it is. Thank you.